Right now, most people's bodies are vibrating at about 7.5 hertz, which is pretty dense, right? And that's kind of the reality that we're holding. But then our consciousness is in our bodies that is holding that frequency. The frequency of source is 963. What we're trying to do at Becoming Bioquantum, and we are succeeding in doing that, is releasing that frequency on the DNA level so that you can start to experience that frequency consciously, both with the mind and the body at the same time.
Welcome to Living in 5D with your host, Peter D.
Welcome to Living in 5D, the show where we interview people who have actualized 5D skills and abilities and discuss what it's like living in the new energies. Our guest today is Jules Arnes of Becoming Bioquantum. Jules, can you please say hello?
Hello, and hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Peter.
Yeah, it's just a joy to be with you. I was introduced to you because you run summits where you bring lots of people together, and I was lucky enough to be invited to be part of that. Can you just briefly introduce yourself, tell everybody listening what it is you do? What is Becoming Bioquantum?
Yes, so Becoming Bioquantum is really bringing that 5D frequency or the frequency of source into the physical body. Right now, most people's bodies are vibrating at about 7.5 hertz, which is pretty dense, right? And that's kind of the reality that we're holding. But then our consciousness is in our bodies that is holding that frequency. So at Becoming Bioquantum, we're turning on frequencies on a DNA level to raise the frequency of the body so that the body can start to move past those limitations that we experience in the body. But then we also get to have the experience of moving our consciousness into those higher frequency. The frequency of source is 963. So we actually use the frequency of DMT, which a lot of people know as a chemical that gets released from the pineal gland when you are born and when you die. But then, of course, you can do psychedelics and different things to reach that state. What we're trying to do at Becoming Bioquantum, and we are succeeding in doing that, is releasing that frequency on the DNA level so that you can start to experience that frequency consciously, both with the mind and the body at the same time.
So I love what you do because you're grounding it in science and grounding it in our physical understanding of how 3D operates and using that as a bridge to get into 5D. So I just love that. And I also love that you're not just taking an approach that's strictly consciousness, although consciousness will get you there in the end. You're taking an approach that uses technology, which could also get you there in the end if it was done correctly and done with connection to source. Can you talk a little bit more about the process of how you can activate DMT without going on a psychedelic trip?
I know. You know what I love about what you just said is that, there's nothing wrong with psychedelics, but we can't do psychedelics every single day. And so we really want to, and it's whether it's psychedelics or even if it's just a really high level spiritual experience where we're moving our consciousness outside of our programming and we have very clear thought in that source frequency. Well, that's where we all should be living all the time, right? We shouldn't have to go on a psychedelic trip or to go into a really deep level of understand or meditation in order to get to that space. We should be able to, and that's our innate being, is to be in that state of consciousness all the time. So when we are activating the body, we use what I call the evolution technology. And the evolution technology, we teach the foundation of it, which is basically teaching how to hold consciousness in abstract frequency or a frequency that we can't identify in, which is how we actually move outside of our programming. But we also have the same frequencies in all of our products. So I have some DMT products. I have a skincare line, which is working on a cellular level to activate the skin to hold that frequency. And then we have our DMT Academy, where we teach how to release this frequency on a DNA level and then hold it consciously. So we could go into exactly what the technology is doing, but I'll turn it over to you and see where the conversation goes.
Right. Because I've got some amazing questions, but I first have to tell a little story, okay? Because this
I
is
love
just so
that.
exciting. So I've got some friends who have experienced enlightenment, and they've been in a program. It used to be Oneness University. It's now ECM, and it works to bring you to this enlightened state. And what they do is they transfer diksha, mental transmission of blessing. And they would used to do that in different ways, by hands, through their eyes and stuff like that. Now they do it through bottles of water. They do these processes where they change something in the water and you drink it and it's liquid enlightenment. And I'm not kidding you. I've had this stuff and it's like,
No, I believe it.
okay. And so now here you are with enlightenment in skincare products. I'm like, oh, wow, is there no end to how this goes? So my first question to you, Jules, because this is so cool, is how do you help people make sense of the transition of what it's like? I mean, we can talk about it being, a DMT trip and it's just way out there. I'm in conscious contact with Source 24/7. So weird stuff happens with me all the time. And everybody I speak with who's trying to get up there is like, well, this happened, that happened. I'm like, great, cool, good, allow it. And they're still trying to do something when reality grows and is bigger and their mind's still clutching to where they were. So how do you help people who are going through that transition and say, okay, you're going to use this products, get ready? What do you tell them?
I love when we have a YouTube channel as well, and we do a lot of little teachings and that sort of thing, because what I find is it's great doing things that raise your frequency. But if you don't have the basic foundation of how to hold consciousness in that frequency, you're going to roller coaster, right? And you'll
Yeah.
keep searching for the high. It's like, oh, I want to go back to where I felt. And I feel like that's a big looping cycle that a lot of people get stuck in. And so one of the things that I always teach is knowing what level of consciousness you're in. Because if you're in the primal body, or you're trying to create something new through your own programming, you're just going to get another level of your programming. And so what I do is I do a little exercise, and we can do it because it's really fast, of just identifying if you're in your programming, or if you're in the allowing of connecting to the frequency of source. And what's so cool is that it's actually not hard once you know the subtle difference between the two. But then of course you have to practice living your life in there. So if you want to do it, we could do a little
I do,
exercise.
absolutely. I'm excited about it because I want to experience it. And it's a new tool for everybody who's watching this channel. Before we get into that, I would like you to tell everybody your websites, how they know how to contact you. Can you do that, please?
Of course, it's becomingbioquantum.com. And there's lots of ways to play on there. Just spend some time. And we have a little thing that's called Ask Your DNA. And you actually can do a shuffle the cards and take a DMT code, and you'll get a transmission and different things that you can do with the code, which is a lot of fun. It's a fun place to start if you just don't know where to go.
That's fantastic. Becomingbioquantum.com. Now, one last question before we get into this process. And I get this all the time. People are often looking like it's unusual that you're in these higher states. And I'll get this from people who interview me. It's like, well, what do you do, with all this stuff? What do you do to quiet down and calm down? And I sit there and say, I don't. My goal is to live in 5D, and then as things come around me in 3D, bring them into my reality and stuff. So rather than yo-yo between different points of consciousness, I want to be in this higher platform and bring my world around into it. Can you speak to that for just a second? And then we're going to get into this process so we can enjoy your wisdom.
Yeah, of course. So I too, I call it living in the field, and the field is the frequency of source, or 963. And really that field, if some people call it the quantum field, right? And that field is you, it's who we are. And so a big part of living in that field, and I'm sure that have mastered it in your own way, and I think there's so many different ways to master it, is to know if you're there or not. And that kind of goes back to this where I was before, is like that subtle difference, because most people don't know what it feels like to not live in their programming. But when they have the basic
Right.
tools to be able to hold their consciousness outside of their programming, is where they start to really identify in the field or in a frequency that's not programmed. And there's so many different levels of what, the way I like to say it is, and this is why I love working with frequency, is like once you know what a frequency is, so in this case, we're working with 963 or source intelligence, because a frequency has intelligence. And we can call it source, you can call it God, divine, whatever you want to call it. Well, that frequency is innately in you already. So when we do something, like we have a supplement that actually activates that frequency in the cells, and it's working with how the cells are dividing, so that when they're dividing, they're holding that frequency, so that your body is holding that frequency. Well, where is your consciousness? It's in your body. So it's supporting your consciousness and moving into that frequency. But then that's still, I mean, eventually, like you said, you're probably going to get there. But if we're actively participating in that frequency consciously, is the way I like to say it is, we all know what it, like what's, you're gonna tune a piano. So you're have the little thing, I don't know what it's called, but you turn it on and it tells you, okay, this is the note B. And then you try to play the piano to match that frequency. Well, the same thing is happening with your consciousness. So now you're turning on that frequency, it's in your body, and your body is the tuning fork. And then you're attuning your consciousness to match that frequency. So it gives your consciousness somewhere to go. And when you have the basic tools to be able to hold it there, you enter the field. And then all of a sudden you're in the field. And then from there, it gets so easy, because you're either there or you're not. And that's all you have. That's the awareness that you're always, am I in the field or am I not? And you know what it feels like to be in the field. And once you know that, everything changes.
See, I love what you're saying, because it's none of the language I would ever use, but it's the exact same points I try to make when I teach. So I'm really, really excited, happy to be with you, because I'm learning, to expand both my vocabulary and my understanding. So let's get into this process. I want to lead into it with a fundamental teaching from one of my teachers when I was at the Ramtha School of Enlightenment. And the Ram's basic tenet, basic principle to everything is consciousness plus energy determines the nature of reality. And here I'm hearing you saying, okay, frequency is where you are in that reality field. And you're saying if you apply your consciousness to it, then it becomes an active participant in creating the frequency of your reality. So it's like, it's so cool that I keep hearing this from different teachers. It's, to me, basically the same teaching. And I'm excited, Jules. Let's get into this process so we can actually actualize it.
I love it. So I feel like we can make it more of a process. I'm just going to grab a DMT code here, and that will help bridge from one place to the other.
Okay, now when you say grab a DMT code, what exactly are you talking about? Is it something you can hold up for the camera to see?
Yeah, so this is code number 11.
Okay.
This is holding consciousness outside of programming. So like the code before this would be code number 9, which would be the ability to know that you're, let's say, in the illusion, and you're conscious that you're in the illusion, and you're even able to hold a perspective of being able to observe the illusion, but you're not quite holding consciousness outside of it consistently. So this would be the ability to do that, is to hold consciousness in the field consistently to where you're no longer in programming.
And so am I understanding this, that that's a 2D representation of this frequency that you're speaking of?
Yeah, so the way the codes work is we have and then we have the actual evolution technology. So we work a lot with symbols. And then we also work with numbers, because numbers is a way of delivering frequency without words. So it's shifting the way that we receive information from a word, which has a lot of programming around it, to I mean, a lot of times if you were like, oh, we're in the frequency of the 8, there's not going to be as much programming around that as saying, oh, we're in the frequency of even saying the word God or source, like, because then people have an identity of what that is. So it kind of starts to shed the identity and allows it to be just a frequency.
Cool. Great.
Okay. And then, so what first we're going to do the exercise. I think what we'll do is let's just do the perfect exercise to know if you're in your programming or if you're not, and what the subtle difference feels like. And then if we have time, we can do an activation, but let's start there because I feel like this is so valuable. All right. So just shut your eyes. This is super simple. It's an easy way to learn the difference. So in your mind's eye, and you can use whatever intuitive power is easiest for you. So if you see things, if you hear things, if you sense things, or if you just know things, because claircognizance can be just knowing. So I want you to bring an image of a rainbow. So you're just bringing up an image of a rainbow in your mind's eye, and then having the experience of what that is with whatever clair you're strongest in. And just notice what your body feels like. Notice the image. Okay, and then open your eyes and shake it out. You guys shake it out.
Okay.
Now shut your
Oh.
eyes again, and we're going to do it differently this time. So now shut your eyes and just let yourself go. And now bring a white blue light into the center of your mind and allow your consciousness to move into this light. And as your consciousness moves into the light, allow it to expand and encompass your entire mind, just clearing out the mind, bringing it to that 0 point. And now ask the frequency of source to show you a rainbow. And just notice how it's different. The image might be different, the feeling might be different. You're allowing. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So the first one is more imagination and pulling on our programming to create an image of and that's creating and programming. The other, you're allowing the frequency to show you what it really is. And it feels different in the body. It feels more light. I mean, you had your experience. What was it like for you, Peter?
So I got an image both times and they were pretty similar, although the second one was more spinning. The difference was the second time when source was invited in through the blue white light was the energy signature was turned super way up. So it was the difference between, kind of feeling like a little tingle versus 6 cups of coffee. Okay. Okay, I'm feeling that. So yeah, and that was just like that fast and that strong. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how quickly we can shift from one frequency to the other consciously as well, right? So, and I love that you actually had the same image because it shows you can have the same experience from a different place.
Oh, this is
Super
beautiful. And
fun.
so I hope everybody watching this can understand that, we're talking a lot of sciencey things here with Jules. And when you listen to me, you hear a lot of spiritual things. But the takeaway from this is just in a minute, no matter what approach you use, you can access this field. You can go bioquantum and get to the higher frequencies of the divine, or you can just do it through your own techniques, but it's right there available to you. And I'm so happy, Jules, that you do this, because some people don't want, this is what I've learned, is that God doesn't care what you call it. God cares that you call it. Okay. And some people who have a science background or have an analytical background are not going to resonate towards what I do. And this is, in my mind, why God put you on the planet. Okay. So that the people who resonate towards those types of understandings will have it laid out in a way that meets them where they're at. So they get to eat the food they enjoy most and get to source. And remember, becomingbioquantum.com is how to access all the wonders that Jules is presenting.
I love that you say that. This came into my mind as you were speaking. So if we have a few minutes, I want to just share this.
Please do.
I feel like there's a lot there's a lot of teachings out there where we're focused on consciousness and we kind of leave the body behind. And my passion is that we bring the body with us. And so I started really working with this frequency of activating on a cellular level, because I used to only work with the mind. And I shifted that after I had a spine injury that I healed myself from. And I did it by activating frequency in my cells. And since then, I've gotten more dialed in on what exactly is happening. And now what I'm finding is just how far we're going to go with this. And I'm going to tell you what I'm getting to my point here. So I did a test. It's called True Diagnostic. And you send your blood in and they can tell you what your biological age is compared to your chronicle age. It tells you how long your telomere length is. So telomeres are things that shorten as we age. And when they shorten all the way, we die, right? And your mitochondrial health, all these different things. So I got the test done, and my telomere length was 37 years old. And I was like, that's pretty good. I'm 50 years old chronologically.
Look,
and I was
see, this is what happens when you connect to source, right? You use youth. This is what happens.
Yeah, it does. Well, we're proving it, right? The age is a leaping cycle. And so anyway, so 10 months later, not even 10 months later, it was like almost 9 months later, I did the test again. And in that 9 months, I didn't really change anything. But the one thing I did change was how much I was coding with these codes. And I also started the supplement that I was talking about. My telomere length in under 10 months went from 37 years old to 19 years old. So my cells the telomeres are 19 years old. And that's a huge difference in a very short amount of time. But also the other thing that I found really interesting is it also measures your pace of aging. So like how every year, how much are you actually aging? And I went down 2 months from where I was before. So I'm aging at right around 8.5 months a year versus the average person that ages every year, a year. So what we're showing is that when we start to hold this frequency in our body starts to become something different. And that's why I call it Becoming Bioquantum, because we're literally becoming the quantum field in physical form.
So cool. So a couple of years ago, Spirit tells me I have this vivid dream where I'm talking to myself in it. And in this dream, I'm like saying, okay, Peter, you're 120 years old. How much longer do you want to be on the planet? And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, you can stay, you can do another stint, 30, 40 years, because there's more work you can do, or you can come back. You're at that choice point. I go, but I'm 120. And they go, yeah, that's pretty much what you're looking at right now. And I go, oh, just a second. I got to know, how will 120 be as far as physically? Will it be old and decrepit and stuff? And they're like, no, it'll be pretty much the same way you are now. So from that point on, I knew I was going to be 120 before I make a choice whether or not to be more. And I always wondered how I was going to get there. I mean, it was shown to me as clear as day. How am I going to get there? And I've been looking at all these things. I know people who can draw your blood, pull your stem cells out, run it through lasers, and put it in. And it's just like you think, just like that. It's like you back up, you shorten your telomeres, you go backwards doing it. But those treatments are $10,000 a pop. All right. And I'm like, so I'm excited about it because it's available on the planet right now. But, it's $10,000. All right. So here you are sitting here, and I'm assuming that your supplements cost less than $10,000, right? So you don't know how excited you are making me, and how I'm going to be running to your website after this interview and get a subscription going. So yeah, thank you for bringing this in ways that are more accessible. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Yeah. It's my pleasure. I mean, it's really fun when you're given information through that intelligence and you follow through on it. And you know it in your cells, you know it in your body. And, you may be the only one that knows it for a while, but when it starts giving you, and I'm not one to teach on evidence, but when it starts to actually create form, because it's actually happening, so it's kind of like that insight becomes reality, it gets really fun. And that's definitely where we are and a lot of other people.
Well, we're in 3D at the moment. We've got minds, and local mind has doubt. And so when you start to see form, it's all of a sudden doubt over here, form over here. Ooh, I think I'm going to go with this form, right? Till then, you have to hold the faith, of course. Now, I have to tell you, I'm selfish and I'm greedy. And I'm going to do everything I can to not let you leave this interview until you actually do the activation part. If I can just beg for that, please.
I'm just going to draw, and we'll see what frequency everyone's needing.
And I want to let everyone knowing that our YouTube connection is a little bit spotty over the internet right now, but the energetics are here. So stay with it. Even if you're seeing the video freeze for a second, I'm holding the energetics. Jules is holding the energetics. We're going to edit it together. Don't worry about it being a little glitchy. All right, Jules, please.
All right, so we're going to start by just setting the body into 0 point with the evolution technology. So you'll just look at this first code, and this is the luminous. And you can just feel this first code setting the body into that 0 point. So just feeling the shift. And then we'll go with the second code, which is the scalar. And this is bringing in 7 rays of a frequency that's allowing consciousness to be held in that 0 point. So just feeling that as it activates in your body. And then we'll go to the third code, which is the frequency of 963 that is being activated on a cellular level. You can see it just like turning on a light switch. And your whole body is holding the frequency of source. And then as that turns on, it activates the first code of DMT. And this is the 1, which holds the ability for new thought outside of programming, the ability to lead, to be a way shower, change maker. So just letting that frequency activate in every cell of your body. And as it's activating, it's connecting to the electrons of your body. And all of the electrons start to click together, creating a system that holds the intelligence of source so that your body can identify in a frequency over form. And then the second code is the 33, which is the master level. It's the ability to hold consciousness in the mind, body, in connection to source intelligence. You are already a master. You just are going through the remembering of what that is, just letting this frequency activate, connecting it to that number one, so that you hold the leadership of your mastery. And then the last code is the 22. And that is the ability to take that mastery and bring it into form, to build this 5D reality through the frequency of source. And now just letting all of those frequencies move into that system, just feeling how your body might feel a little different right now. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. It's still working. And now your job, knowing that the codes are already working, the technology is working in your body, and now you get to go and explore and experience what that technology is showing you. And that's it.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. So
Of course.
I'm trying to hold it together because I'm being an interviewer, right? But stuff is going on the inside. I do a lot of blessings, transmissions, Diksha, we call it, in different ways, and meditations. And people all the time say stuff like, I didn't get nothing except I got a headache. Right. And I always laugh when people tell me they got a headache, because it's quite common, right? Because we call it brain surgery, right? We know stuff is happening and you're changing the physical stuff and it hurts sometimes. So you're giving me a nice headache right here. So when this interview's over, I'm going to lay down and do some aspirin, because that's okay to do aspirin. But I'm also excited to know transformation is taking place and I'm feeling it. So thank you for that, Jules. Do I understand correctly that these cards are something that is available on your website, along with instruction on how to use them, so that you can actually get into these frequencies with a daily practice or something like that?
Yeah. So yes, you can get the cards, and it comes with actually two work. Sorry, let me take a sip. It comes with two workshops on how to use them, because a big part of the cards is it's teaching your brain to actually communicate in the frequency of source beyond timelines. So each code has no up or down, beginning or ending. And when you really learn the language of the codes, you start to think outside of timelines, which brings your consciousness outside of timelines, which starts to shift the way that you see your body, you experience your body. It's another way of moving those telomeres. My goal is to get it to 0 years age.
Well, when I was just younger and this was all like a dream in the distance, I was listening to those books, Conversation with God. All right. And they were audiobooks, and you had Ed Asner reading them. So God, the voice of God, was played by Ed Asner. It was just beautiful. And he gets to the part where he says, you don't have to die. Your body was not built for you to die. It was just not processing things that then create the toxins and the poisons which cause aging. And so that was in there a long time ago. And you look in our teachings around the planet, all the teachings, especially like in the Western Bible, you have, Ezekiel, you have Elijah. They both left the planet as balls of light because they did not die. They were, okay, we're done here. And then you got the greatest teacher in the Bible, of course, the Christ, and he does the same. Right. So now what we're starting to understand is this is available to all of us. So here you are saying you want to get it to 0, rock and roll is all I got to say to that, because it's possible. And you've got a line on source on doing that, and you're sharing it with everybody. And gosh, I know more than anything, if you want something, give it to the people, share it with people. That's how you get what you want. Share it. And you're doing that. So I can't wait to see you when you decide to consciously ascend.
Well, I'll be at least 120 when they ask.
Good, 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 good. All righty. So I don't have any more questions because we've covered so much ground, and this is really a dense interview. There's a lot here to unpack, especially the nonverbal part with all the energetics of the frequencies you were sending. So I'd like to bring this to a close. I want to remind everybody that your website is becomingquantum.com. And Jules, can you just give us a way to go home, a way to take this interview and just, instead of saying, oh, that was a nice interview, you should have heard what this lady said, she was really cool. Can you just give us those profound words of wisdom, no pressure, profound words of wisdom that are just going to really resonate with everybody?
I love it. So yes, if you're in a space where you feel stuck and you're trying to climb back up into that frequency, just step back. And one of my favorite questions I love to ask is, this is what I can see right now, or this is my experience I'm in right now, but what is it really? And then in that moment, we're allowing consciousness to open up and explore through the frequency of source. So when you're saying, what is it really? See that frequency of source turning on in your body, and then be curious. Go into a place of curiosity of, what would this be beyond my programming? And then explore it. And I love doing that because we're always consistently moving out of our programming and moving into a perspective beyond that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's going to carry me for the rest of the week, just on a cloud of becoming even more bioquantum awesome. So thank you. This is Jules Arnes, becomingbioquantum.com, and looking forward to seeing you on another episode of Living in 5D. Please put your comments below. If you're starting to have experiences, if you understand different technologies or consciousness or spiritual practices that move you along, let's have a discussion. This is about getting the whole planet up. So please put your comments below, like and subscribe. That's going to help a lot because I got a big ego and I want to see those subscribe numbers go up, but also because it helps the algorithm send these messages out to people. Thank you so, so much. Many blessings for being with us. Thank you, Jules.